Hi everyone, and welcome to another one of my videos where I talk to you about 5 books that have some meaning to me of some kind. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 books that tell you something about me. So these books all mean something different to me. I honestly believe that the majority of the books on my shelves can tell you something about myself. And I think that that's the same with a lot of people, that you could pick any one of the books on a person's bookshelf and work something out about them, depending on whether they've read it or not. I've purposely today picked 5 books that I have read, although I almost went with 5 books that I haven't read and what they tell you about me as well, because I think I might do that in the future. But these 5 books I've read at different times in my life, and they've all impacted me in different ways. So I'm going to start today with the oldest of the books that I have today. It's a beautiful edition. I honestly haven't read this book in this particular edition, but this book is Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Maude Montgomery. This book I read when I was in grade 4, I think, for the first time. That's when I came across Anne of Green Gables. It was one of our class novels, I think, or it came up as one of the options that I could read at school. And from reading this book, I would have to say that this is probably one of the first series that I hunted the books down. The library at school didn't have all the books in the Anne of Green Gables series, and I hunted them all down and I loved them so much. Anne is a character I think many girls can relate to when they're growing up, and even now when I read back on it, I still find myself really connected to Anne Shirley. And this book, I think, speaks a lot to me as that dreamer, I suppose. I do relate to Anne a lot. I felt that this was me. Not with the red hair though. I didn't have the red hair. So many things about this book just make me happy, and they're familiar and lovely. And I've got to say, I was disappointed. The TV series on Netflix at the moment is good. I haven't watched much of it because I can understand why they made the changes that they did, and I support making the changes that they did, but it's not my Anne of Green Gables. It is a new story, and that's fine. But this, I love it. So give this one a go and you might learn a little bit more about me. Now, the next book that I have, it's a book, but it's also the libretto of a musical. And I suppose this book goes to show you that while I adore books, my other great love in this life is musical theatre. And I know when I lived in London, I lived there for 2 years, and I averaged over the course of that 2 years seeing a show, or sometimes a play, but a show a week. So musical theatre has been a huge part of my life for a very, very long time. And I would say that there are 2 musicals, and they're both around, I think they're out around about the same time. But 2 musicals probably had the biggest impact. So one of them was The Phantom of the Opera. I don't have the copy of the libretto for that. This one is Into the Woods by Stephen Sondheim and James Lapine. You may know it from the Disney musical, which was good. I enjoyed it. They did change chunks of it, which I was disappointed about, but I understand why they do those things. But Into the Woods, I stumbled across the song at the end of Act 1 by accident. I was searching for the soundtrack for the movie Ever After, starring Drew Barrymore, and I typed in Ever After, and a song came up from Into the Woods called Ever After, which happens at the end of Act 1. And that moment was just pure joy. But Into the Woods combines my love of musical theatre, my love of Stephen Sondheim musicals in particular, and fairy tales. I had a themed 21st birthday, which was a fairy tale themed. I surround myself, can you see, with elements of fairy tales in my life. I think that they've been a huge impact in my life for a variety of reasons. And I would say that Into the Woods had something to do with that, plus all the Disney movies that I love. I like a lot of fairy tales. So Into the Woods tells you a lot about me. Go check it out. And I could talk about this all day. I'm not going to. That's enough about Into the Woods. But this one, I have a huge play collection, but this was probably one of the first and the most cherished of my musical section in the play and in the whole play section. So Into the Woods. The next book may take some people by surprise when I talk about, not if you actually do know me. If you know me in real life, you'll understand maybe why I like this book and what it tells you about me. But when I was at university, I studied theatre and literature. And then I did an honours year at the end of my undergraduate degree where I researched preschool children's theatre. And before you think that I'm going to show you a book about preschool children's theatre, no, I'm not. The play that I put on, I wrote and directed and did the research and wrote my final paper on, was about pirates. It was called Captain Kate and Her Pirate Crew. I played Captain Kate and my friends were my pirate crew. And this book was one of the books that I bought during that year, and I didn't read it till after, but it came out of that sort of borderline obsession during a 2-year period with pirates. And what a great thing to be obsessed with. I still love pirates, still have some elements of nautical pirate-ish type stuff around my house. But this book is called The Pirate Queen. It's a non-fiction book. It's In Search of Grace O'Malley and Other Legendary Women of the Sea. And it's by Barbara, let's call her Barbara, Shaholm. I should have checked the pronunciation. I'm sorry, Barbara, if you ever watch this. But The Pirate Queen is, it's a historical, it's about the history of Grace O'Malley, the Pirate Queen of Ireland, who was around during Elizabethan times, met Queen Elizabeth. Like there's a whole musical, actually. There's a musical called The Pirate Queen about Grace O'Malley, and I think this book, it's sort of about the person, about Barbara going in search of the location where Grace was and going in search of the real figure, Grace O'Malley, rather than the legend that she became. I enjoyed this. I haven't gone back and read it again, but I remember I really enjoyed it. It was part travel log, part history book, and it was just really cool. I hope one day to be able to visit Ireland and go to some of the parts of Ireland that Barbara went to and that Grace O'Malley lived, because I think that would be absolutely amazing. Now the next book is from an author that I know I absolutely love, and I know I will talk about her regularly as I do different videos. Tamora Pierce. I think Tamora Pierce doesn't get enough credit, and I think that more people should read her books, and I really hope that Lionsgate, I think the production company, do follow through with turning her books, especially from her Tortell universe. I hope they follow through and do turn her books into a TV series, because I think it would be absolutely incredible to introduce Tamora Pierce's characters, her strong female characters, to a whole new audience, a whole new generation of people. I think Tamora Pierce's books, her characters are fantastic because they're different, but they're not different in a way that is completely out of this world. I see myself in the characters in different ways, and I like that. I like a character that I can see myself in. And I like how strong the women are, and not just one kind of strength either. They all have different strengths. The book I particularly have here was the first of Tamora Pierce's books that I ever read. I read this before I read her earlier books or anything else, because my librarian gave it to me knowing that I would like it. And she was right. So this happened in grade 6. So I was about 12 at the time, and I've been obsessed ever since. Tamora Pierce is the best. First Test by Tamora Pierce about Lady Caledry of Mindolin, Cal for short. She's the first female warrior, or first female page to enter the training program to become a knight in the kingdom legally for a very, very long time. She follows in the footsteps of Alana, who the original series Song of the Lioness, which I have up here. Song of the Lioness is over here. That quartet came first. Alana had to disguise herself as a boy to become a knight. And because of that, and because of what she did, the path that she trod, and the legend that she became, while still alive, Kel was able to become a knight. And it follows her first year of training where she's put on probation. She has to show the training master and all the other pages, all the boys, that she is capable of doing it. But Cal is just absolutely incredible. She starts off thinking she's got to act like a boy and to earn the boys' respect. But on the first day that she arrives at the castle for training, her room is trashed, and she makes a decision then and there to wear dresses every day for dinner. And it's a simple little thing, but she's constantly owning the fact that she's a woman, and she's not ashamed of it. She's not hiding it, unlike Alana, who had to hide it in the previous books. So I love that these two women are walking the same path a little bit, but they both have to go about it in different ways. And the people that she meets, both men and women, show such character, and good and bad, and such strength. I love so many of the women that she's got as role models, and I love it. I love it. And I honestly can't tell you so much exactly what this book tells you about me, except for the fact that I've lost count of how many times I've read this book, because Kel is a character that I adore, and as I do with all her other characters, but Kel is always going to be my favorite. Don't tell the others. And I've reread it. It's in okay condition. It's not falling apart, but it is well loved, and I've recommended this time and time again, and people do not pick it up. I don't know why. It looks amazing. This is a book I can get really passionate about, and I think that again speaks to, I love a strong female character. This is Tamora Pierce's female characters were before we had the Hunger Games and before we had Divergent and some of those other young adult books. I personally think Tamora Pierce opened the door, and I do believe if you did a bit of research you'd find that she did open the door for a lot of the current books, the young adult books. And I think you can see, if you go back and read these, how much she has done. Tamora Pierce is somewhat of a trailblazer, making fantasy for women. So read it and check it out, and then see if you can pinpoint exactly what it is that makes me think that this book tells you a lot about me. It really does. And the last book that I want to talk about is another non-fiction book, so like the Grace O'Malley book, but quite different. That this is it's a very popular book. It's not one that I think most people wouldn't have heard of or seen somewhere. It's Rising Strong by Brene Brown. And I think this one really speaks to, I've had a lot of knocks in my life. My life has not gone in a straight line. No one's does. But I seem to have found myself in many, many situations, time and time again, where I've been knocked down and I have had to rise again. And I've done it, and I am stronger for it every single time. And I wish that I'd had this earlier in my life to read and to help guide me along that way, but I'm so glad that I have it in my life now. This is one of those books that I read and then I go back and read different sections of, depending on what's going on. And if I'm having a really, really bad day, not such a bad day that I just want like Netflix and wrap myself in a blanket. Sometimes I have those days too. But if I'm having a bad day at work or something has gone wrong, I pick up a Brene Brown book and read something, because something in it will speak to me. And this is probably one of the ones that I pick up the most. You can even see I've gone through and highlighted because it really does speak to me. And I think if anyone else was having trouble with similar kinds of things, that it would be a good book to pick up and read. It's full of quotes and different things, and I love these. One day I'm going to get something like this framed because it does really speak to me. But the truth is that falling hurts. The dare is to keep being brave and feel your way back up. And I think we've all had to do that at some point, whether that's someone else knocking us down, whether it's ourselves knocking us down. Sometimes that's what's happened, whether it's our mental health, whether it's COVID, whether it's whatever life has thrown at us. We get knocked down and we've got to get back up again. Rising strong, something that we all could do more of. And I think it's a really valuable book, well and truly worth having a read of. So there we go. That's 5 books that tell you something about me. Lots more to learn about me as we go through this journey of talking about books together. If you've got any questions, let me know in the comments below. And if there's a book in your life that speaks to you, I'd love to hear about it, because I think it's really great to sort of see how books speak into our own human experience. And each of these books have had an impact in different ways. They all tell my story in different ways, and I'd love to know your story. So share a book that has done that for you in the comments down below. And I will be releasing some more Wheel of Time videos later in the week.